Happy Tuesday. It's August. Let's see. I'm gonna get my friends signed up on here. I got friends. I got family. I got my faith. I got followers. I got frenemies, and I wanted to share some information with you today. Hey Chuck, thank you for clicking in. Hey Ricky, appreciate you guys clicking in. Great day. Hey, it's August, man. I was just thinking about that. I think it's August 2nd, isn't it? Hey, Johnny. Let's see these names come up on here, man. You guys sign up. I got some pretty good info to share with you today. I want to talk about some great questions and answers and information people ask me all the time. Hey, Alan. Thank you all for clicking in here. It's gaining pretty fast now. It says, I think, when you're looking at it from somebody else's phone, it says, George Bryce is live. And thank God I'm alive, and I'm enjoying being alive, and I'm enjoying sharing this information with you. I read somewhere the other day where it said if the only way that we're going to perpetuate this society and our lifestyle is to share this information with more people, because it's the only way we learn. We share what we think we know. We share our experiences, all of us. And I've been very fortunate to be the guy that got to race 100% of my life, my adult life. My career, my livelihood was all about racing. And we were very fortunate to make a plan when we were 16, 17, 18 years old that we were going to find a way to race for a living. So we made a career out of it, and turned out to be a pretty good life. We worked really, really hard, and we had some success, and we had lots of failure, but that's part of it, man. So, hey, Kevin, hey, Jim, thank you guys for clicking in and checking in. I see some names popping up here that I really appreciate. I wanted to tell you that this is so much fun for me every Tuesday to get to share with you guys these thoughts and ideas and experiences from my long career, which I'm very fortunate to have. And I know I said that already, but I'm overwhelmed with how thankful I am for being able to do this for 40 or 50 years and get to share it with you guys. Hey Wes, I will be, at this year for the Labor Day. I think I'll be 68 years old, and I was born and put on the earth here to race and to be a competitor and to share that experience with you guys. So this is Tech Talk Tuesday number 157. That is 3 years and 1 week consecutively. And I know there's people out there with blogs and all these things they do on the internet, but this is going to be one of the longest running, I believe, especially in today's world, to be able to do it 157 weeks in a row without missing. And it's because of you guys. It's because you guys tune in here every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 Central, and all around the world. I see names and people pop up here. Thank you, Theodore and Barry. I really appreciate Ron. It's good to see your name coming up here. You know what's great is when I know these people and see Barry and I see Ron and I see some of these names, Wes, and it's so cool because what I know about you and what I remember about you is like a little video runs across my head right quick. So when you see those guys, it's those names, it's awesome. Hey, Chad and Ronnie. Yeah, well, anyway, I was thinking about it today, with the Topeka race coming back. I want to tell you a real quick story about Topeka NHRA. We were, Angel start, I think it was right when we finished racing. How many years has it been since the Pro Stock Motorcycles raced in Topeka? I think it's been 20 or 30 years. Somebody watching us knows this answer to this question, but it's been a long, long time. And back in the 90s, I think it was, let me think, 1996 or 1997, John Myers and the Star Racing team, the late, great John Myers, won 3 championships with us and 33 national events in his short time here racing with us. It was wonderful to get to share that with him and his family. But I wanted to tell you that we introduced Angel at Denver in 1996, I believe it was, along with 3 other women. That was their first NHRA race for all the girls to sign up and race Pro Stock Motorcycle. And everybody had the same idea. If we were going to bring a girl to run NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle, we all decided to do it at Denver that year. So I think we had Stephanie Reeves and Karen Stouffer and Angel, and I might be skipping one more, but it was pretty neat to see that. You know, there were 25 entries back then, and now it's pretty easy. You show up and you qualify now compared to how it used to be. But back, I remember even in 2014 when Corey Reed entered his first race at Vegas, his first Pro Stock motorcycle race, there were 32 entries in Pro Stock motorcycle in 2014. 32 entries. Isn't that crazy, y'all? Well, back to my Topeka story, since it's been so long, and I know one reason why we haven't been racing there is Pro Stock motorcycles. And when I say we, I'm just talking about because I'm very interested. But I wanted to share with you about a real quick story that was pretty interesting and pretty historical. Sometimes when you talk as much as I do, you need a little zero weight lubrication for the pipes. Anyway, we were running John Meyer's Star Racing bike, and Angel was running John's spare bike at Topeka, Kansas. It was her second event she ever entered in. Her first race was Denver. She made it to the semis in her first race ever. She goes to Topeka, Kansas, and she ended up making it to the final against John Myers. So we had 2 star bikes in the final for the first time in forever. I can't even remember the last time we did that. But she was riding a Star Racing Suzuki. John Myers was riding a Star Racing Suzuki. And Angel said when she made it to the final, she won the semis and John won the semis. She said, "George, I'm not going to race John." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "I'm here. My sole reason for being at the races is to learn and to support John to help him win the championship." And I said, "Yeah, but you got to go up and run him." She said, "No, I'm not going to go try and run him because if he makes a mistake, he'll lose and I'll win, and that will defeat the purpose, of us coming to this race." And I'm telling y'all, this is exactly how I remember it. If you remember it different or somebody on here has a different story, that's cool. Hey, Jeff, but this is how I remember it, and I'm going to share it with you real quick. So we went to the tower and we told them that it was going to be a single in the final, and everybody was mad and they were upset. And so they sent Bob Fry down to our trailer, down to our pit, and Bob Fry sat in there and he said, "George, don't do this. Send her up there, do it like John Force, do it like the other pros do, where one guy smokes the tires or one sleeps or one's late, and race. The fans came to see 2 people race. Do not make it a solo." And I said, "Okay, Angel, we're going to go up there. John, you're going to race. Angel, you're going to race. And John's going to win. And if you make a mistake, you got to figure out something. But we're going to win. We're going to get first and second place no matter what happens." So she says, "No, I'm not going up there to race John." And I said, "Angel, you have to." She says, "What if he red lights? What if he falls off? What if his bike breaks? He has to win this race." So she made the decision. She said, "I ain't putting my leathers on. I'm not going up there. I'm going to the starting line with John Myers and stand in his lane and cheer him on." So we went to the starting line for the final, and everybody told me not to do it, but we did it. So John goes up for a solo. He makes a great run. Angel's standing there clapping. TV, man, we were on TV. We had a TV show deal. We showed a solo in the final, and they put the camera on her. She was crying and clapping, and the crowd booed. They booed, y'all. The people in the stands were going, "Boo, boo, boo." They wanted Angel to win, and they wanted to see a final. They didn't want to see a solo. They didn't want to see runner-up standing on the starting line and letting a solo for the final. That's not racing. I didn't know. I was young. I was stupid, and I'm driving 18-wheeler home. We got first and second place, and my phone rings, and it was the first year, if I remember right, it was the first year we ever had cell phones. My cell phone, it's got the same number I have now because I've had that same cell number for over 30-something years. But it was so new that we had a map in the 18-wheeler that showed where the Verizon was, and it was only here, and it was only here, and it was only here. And it was like 1 mile close to some tower in Kansas. And my phone rang, and I answered. I said, "Hello, this is George." And it says, "Hey, George, this is Steve." I said, "Steve." He said, "Gibbs." I said, "Steve Gibbs?" He said, "Yeah, and I want y'all to know, if you lived in my life and you grew up when Don Garlitz was a hero and Wally Parks was still at the races and Winston was still the sponsor, and I was just in awe of all of this. Steve Gibbs called me on my phone and he said, 'Hey, I need to talk to you, man.' And I said, 'Okay, what's up?' And he said, 'What you did yesterday was a really dumb thing. It hurt your class. It hurt our organization. It hurt our value. It hurt our stock value. And I need you to apologize.' I said, what are you talking about apologize? He said, you need to call the mayor of Topeka. You need to call the governoress of Topeka. I have the phone numbers here. And when you get your truck stopped in a truck stop somewhere and call me back, I'll give you all the numbers. I need you to call the Chamber of Commerce. And I need you to go on National Dragster and apologize to everyone for your poor decision making as a team owner last Sunday. Well, this went on and on. I did. I called all those people and I apologized. And I felt like my daddy had called me up and given me a spanking. I mean, it was like he took away my truck, and he took away my phone. He didn't really, but he was, you just don't see that kind of stuff anymore. I didn't get fined. I didn't get docked any money or points, but I got fussed at by the big daddy of NHRA. Steve Gibbs was like the leader of all of it to me, other than Wally. And, you know, Wally would come sometimes, and sometimes he might not. But this guy, Steve, he was the director of competition, and he was always there. So when Steve Gibbs calls you up, it's either really, really good or not so great. And I got reprimanded, and I got fussed at. Now in NASCAR, they call it you got to go to the big black trailer or whatever it is. But I got fussed at. So I called the mayor, I called the governess, which we had dinner with them Friday night. The governess invited, I think it was the champions or something. We had dinner. And that was the first time I met a female governor, and he had the first wife was the husband, or the first husband. I'm sorry to say it that way. And anyway, we got fussed at that Monday for throwing the race intentionally and not faking it. And then to this very day, here it is, 2022. I still have people say, "Man, that was really honorable of you to say you were going to throw the race." And some people say that was really dumb of you to throw the race. And I just want to tell you, I think it was one of the first times in history. Yeah, you're right, Jeff. Steve was one of the men. Hey, David and Gail, God bless you all. I love you all. You're like family to me. Yeah, this is a story about your daughter when she first started. And then she went on to do really well at Indy, and her fourth race at Reading, Pennsylvania, she won her first event. So she had a semi, a second round loss, a final, and a win in her first four races, which is unprecedented for a brand new rookie, never mind a teeny weeny little petite young lady that wanted to race more than I wanted to eat when I'm hungry. But it was a great story. It made a big impact on me. I thought we didn't matter. I thought we were just like motorcycle racing at the motorcycle races. I didn't realize how important it was to the fans. And that's the day I learned that the people that pay to come in to see the race were the most important people that show up. Not Top Fuel guys, not John Force, none of Erica, I love her. All the Pro Stock motorcycle people and Pro Stock car and Top Fuel funny car people, they matter. But the people that pay the tickets and sit in the stands and watch TV, those are the ones that matter. And I learned it that day. So I just wanted to share that with you. Also, I wanted to show you the board so you can see exactly what I was talking about. The Tech Talk Tuesday, number 157. And I know I show this every week. And thank y'all for enduring that story. This is recorded. It's going to be on Star Racing GA on YouTube, so you can see all the episodes. And then I wanted to also tell you that I have people send me questions on the internet. They send me a question, and I ask you too. If you have a question for me, send me a question, George@starracing.com. And when I have time, I will fit it in and answer it. I had a guy write me, and he said, the exhaust length and head pipe step diameters and how it affects the engine at different RPM. That's a great question. And every engine has a different requirement. Like Top Fuel, Funny Car, Nitro, they have so much exhaust pressure. They have so much exhaust pressure that they just need a funnel bolted to the exhaust port, and the funnel goes out, because when the exhaust valve opens, when the cylinder pressure is built up so big in that nitro engine, it wants out. It wants out worse than you could believe. I mean, like when the gate valve, a 2-inch main or 4-inch main on the water, where you open the gate valve and the water rushes out at full speed, full pressure, that's no comparison to what's trying to get out of that cubic inch as a nitro engine on Top Fuel and Funny Car, or even the Top Fuel Harleys, or the nitro top fuel motorcycles. But listen, the pressure buildup in there, the cylinder's swelling up. The exhaust valve is trying to open, and the cylinder pressure is so big on nitromethane that the exhaust valve won't even hardly open. The exhaust valve tries to buckle, the push rods tremble, the camshaft deflects, the lifters bend over, and the rocker arms just drape over, and it's like it won't even hardly open because the pressure is so big in the cylinder. And when it does open, the exhaust just rushes out at supersonic, unbelievable speed. So on that type of engine, I would say the biggest exhaust and the most area you could give at the valve for that to get out. Now, NHRA has made a rule back in the while back where you can't change the exhaust. I think they have an exhaust flange or exhaust valve, a moratorium or some kind of rule where you can't increase that. So now everybody's got that choke or that throttle on the exhaust side to stop them from making more and more power. They're really trying to keep them from going 340 miles an hour in the 1,000 foot, but Brittany's getting close. The exhaust system, like on a Harley, for instance, a 2-into-1, 2 individuals, let's see, what you call them, true duals, or 2-into-1 into 2, all of that stuff matters. The combination makes a big difference. It really, really does matter, because if you think about the V-twin, it's a little bit different engine, as it has 2 cylinders, 2 heads, and they're only 45 degrees apart, and there's a manifold and a throttle body in the middle with 2 injectors. And when they're idling or running at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 RPM, they're actually communicating between those cylinders. Some of the rear is feeding fuel to the front, and some of the front is feeding fuel to the rear. So when you get in there, people ask all the time, do I have to get my bike dynoed? Do I have to get my engine dynoed? You can get close if you deal with a company that has canned maps or starter maps or whatever they call them, where you can download a map into your bike, but it will be close, but it's not the full deal. Because listen, if you got a different pipe on where you got different signals coming back and forth from the exhaust system and the reflective wave coming back from the collector in and out of those pipes, it's going to change what's going on in the intake manifold between the valves and between the heads, and those injector timings are going to make a big difference. And I'll show you that again one day, but I just wanted to tell you that. But like on a pro stock motorcycle, we put the biggest exhaust we can on. We make it pretty doggone short because we have a small power band, say 12,000 to 14,000 is about the only power band. I saw some data the other day on a really fast pro stock motorcycle where it did see 11,800 RPM at the bottom of each shift and 13,800 at the top of each shift. So there's about a 2,000 RPM window, and the exhaust system needs to be tuned. Everything else in the engine needs to be tuned in that zone, in that RPM range. And I know you're going to get, I like individual runners too, because you got, like if it's a 4-cylinder, you have 4 individual engines that are tuned independent, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're able to, look, those nails. I've been working, y'all, believe it or not. I even washed my hands twice. Goodness gracious. Jackie's going to fuss when she sees that. But I just wanted to tell you that it's all about people's, I read and you read and we see on the internet and we hear on the internet people talking about tuned length, exhaust, collectors, putting little restrictors in them. We put what are those little chokes they put in the exhaust to try to make back pressure? I believe it actually gives the reflective wave or the sound wave a place to turn around and come back, and we call it back pressure, but it's not really back pressure. It's tries to stop that communication in the intake manifold, and the exhaust system, once it's full or it's trying to process all this exhaust coming out of both of these cylinders, and it gets into the collector and it starts swapping, and one assists the other one, the other one backs up the other one assists the other, and the other one backs up the other one. At low speeds now, there's a lot of communication going on down in the exhaust, and then when it backs back up and reflects the sound waves back into the heads on overlap, that's when both the intake and exhaust valves are open. You're going to get some really funky tuning going on. I have tuned so many of those types of engines in my life with EFI and fuel injection that I had to make the fuel map looked like it had 2 engines, which it really did, because I call it twin peaks. One out, there's a big fuel peak, and valleys way over at 2,000 or 3,000 RPM. And there's another peak and valley over at peak torque and peak horsepower. So it's twin peaks on the tuning. And when you see, yeah, thank you, the reverse cone collector. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, the reverse cone on the end of the pipe. Yeah, there's some guys on here that are scientists on exhaust, and I am just a layman, just a guy that works on that stuff, and I have my opinions. But with every combination of an engine, there is a perfect pipe that's not perfect for other combinations. But he asked this exact question: exhaust length, head pipe step diameter, and how it affects the engine. This is what I'd think of a step pipe. If it comes out of the head and then it steps to a bigger pipe, and then it comes over here and it steps to a bigger pipe, what the engine is really seeing, in my opinion here, is a megaphone. Because if it has a boundary layer of moving gases in here, it's really smooth looking. And I'm going to exaggerate it now from the head. This is what it looks like in reality. It's really kind of a megaphone, because the exhaust wants to get out fast and it wants to get area as soon as possible. We even have, if you do the port, the smallest part of the exhaust is the valve. So as soon as it gets past the valve, it wants to expand in every direction. Get out of here. Now, if you have really rough steps, and when I say rough steps, I'm talking about like they can actually maybe get a return wave from the step and another return wave from the next step. And if you get down here to the collector, it will definitely give you a return wave. Now, there's all kind of software programs out there, Pipe Max, and they have their own math based on this stuff. And I'm going to tell you what, that is so generalized because it doesn't take into effect what's going on in the intake manifold when you have communication between the cylinders on like a 45-degree V-twin. Listen, y'all, our V8s are 90 degrees. They're so far apart, and we have injectors so far apart compared, and there's not as much communication crossing back and forth through the throttle body. And it's only at low RPM that would happen anyway, because at maximum speed, all this is doing is getting the heck out. And then there's some anti-reversion valves and anti-reversion steps in the pipes and all that stuff. That's all was invented at low RPM. All that was invented back when we didn't have so much exhaust pressure, and also we didn't have such great cylinder heads as we do now, where all you want to do is fill this. We haven't had intake manifolds or intake systems that were so great that we can actually make 3 horsepower per cubic inch with a V8 now, or with a normally aspirated engine. I think the Steve Johnson's Pro Stock motorcycle, the Suzuki, he's making 3.5 horsepower per cubic inch, 113 cubic inches with 400 horsepower. And if you do the math on that, that's for steel springs and gasoline and carburetors. That's probably about as high as you get on horsepower per cubic inch. And to go higher than that, you've got to do something really crazy, like some of the Formula One stuff is bigger than that. And they've regulated those guys down so much. And also, Pro Stock motorcycle is one of the only classes in NHRA, the only professional class that doesn't have a rev limiter rule. So we're starting to really push the envelope on that. Pro Stock car got a rev limiter rule. Top Fuel Funny Car got a rev limiter rule. So that's how you control the advancement on those. If you were to regulate exhaust valve size, a rev limiter, an exhaust flange or exhaust flange gaskets, or the flange to go on the head, you could really stop the advancement of engines, or the research and development of making more horsepower per inch, because it can't get out. I don't care how good your intake port is, how good your valves are, how good your flow bench is. I don't care how good your manifold, your throttle bodies, your injectors. You're only going to get in as much as the exhaust can get out. And that's why we have turbos, superchargers, and nitrous oxide, because we can't get so much out, so we have to overfill it, and it's still the handicap. Did you know that a 1,500 horsepower engine in the factory stock showdown cars. You got 1,400 horsepower, 1,500 horsepower. I think it's a 350 with a Whipple supercharger or Magnuson supercharger on it, and they turn lots and lots of RPM, and they make that engine is like a regular Corvette engine with a 1.6 exhaust valve in it, and that is a choke. That's like putting a stopper in the sink with no more go out of the sink with a stopper in there. And if you were getting 700 horsepower with a 1.6 exhaust valve, you would be doing really, really good. But if you're going to get double that with a 1.6 exhaust valve, you are having to do it boosted, you're having to do it blown, and if you were to check the pressure in the exhaust system, you would be shocked how much pressure is in there. And it doesn't want to be long, skinny pipes with a really tight merge collector. It wants the heck out. I was dynoing a Pro Stock engine one day on the dyno, and the exhaust pipe blew off, and it picked up 10 horsepower. And when I say it blew off, I'm talking about it had springs holding the pipe on. Like it had a flange on the head, and the pipe went over the flange, and it had a spring hooked here to the flange. And every time I'd give it full throttle, you could see the spring stretching and the pipe try to come off. And I didn't even notice, or I didn't realize that I was choking the engine's ability. So when I saw that, I said, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put more rocker ratio on the exhaust side. Sure enough, it picked up big power, low end, top end. And then we went to a bigger exhaust cam, bigger exhaust valves. And I know that over time, and I've said this before, we've all cheated the exhaust side to get more intake, because blown stuff works. Turbos work big time. Nitrous oxide works big time. Supercharged works big time at the even with the restriction of the exhaust. So we make the intake awesome because it works. And we're getting close, y'all. We're getting close to where we might want to cheat back on the intake just a little bit and put just a little more exhaust to it so we can free that deal up at whatever RPM range you're trying to run. And I'm not talking about 5,000 RPM, 6,000, 7,000 RPM engines. I'm talking about the stuff where we're running maximum piston speed, maximum RPM, valve trains on the verge of out of control. It's hard for the valve to follow the cam. It's hard for the lifter to follow the cam. And when your piston's going as fast as it can go through the middle of the stroke, the rings can hardly keep up. Piston goes up faster than a blur and stops, dead stop. At 10,000 RPM, the piston stops. It's hard to believe that the engine crankshaft's going 10,000 RPM and the piston comes to a dead stop. Well, everything connected to it keeps going until it runs out of room. So eventually your rings are going to come loose from the seal they have on the piston. When the piston stops at the top, the ring's going to keep going. And when the piston stops at the bottom, the ring's going to keep going. Because things at rest tend to remain at rest, and things in motion tend to remain in motion. But, hey, Donald, hey, Scott. Before I have to go, anybody got a quick question that they wanted to ask me that I don't have to spend way too long to answer? But I will definitely give it a shot if you have a quick question for me. While we're on the air live, let's try it. I know it's a 30-second, 20-second delay, but let's give it a shot. Come on, somebody. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. Somebody, come on. I got time for a question, and it is, if it's a hard one, I'm gonna skip over it. I'm gonna pretend like, hey, Greg, I'm gonna pretend like a politician. I'm gonna act like I'm not going there, but I'll give you one if it's not too hard. Hey, Ron. Rods on an M8, is that a question? Plus 1 millimeter valves, is that a question? Zoomies seem to be the answer for a nitrous motor. Yep. I'm going to stop right there on you guys rolling through. Yeah, look. Zoomies on a nitrous, and you got to tell you a story, man. I had a guy who was building a brand new car to run at Donald Long's show about 10 years ago, and he saw all my stuff on my internet about my exhaust, and he asked me, he said, what do you think, what exhaust should I run on this? He said, I'm making 2,000 horsepower. I got a nitrous kit on this small block. What kind of exhaust? And I told him I'd put the biggest exhaust I could. And he said, well, where would you exit it? And I said, what do you mean? He said, you do a bullhorn or what? And I said, man, I would put funny cars zoomies on it, man. He said, really? I said, yeah. He said, man, that would nobody believe. So he called all his buddies, he called all his friends, he called all the guys with the fast cars, and they all said, no, man, that's for funny cars. That's for nitro. And he called me back and he said, you know what? I'm going to drive down from Ohio down to your shop and we're going to spend the day. I'll take you to lunch. Or not spend the day, but I'll help you with stuff I know about the nitrous cars and you share with me. And I talked him into doing it, and he ended up selling the car and shipped it overseas. But he had the best and nicest zoomies I ever saw on one of those cars. And it had, it was a small tire car. It was and it had 8 wide bands. And he made that exactly the air fuel ratio he wanted and the exhaust temperatures he wanted, and the car was awesome. He was a great tuner and a great engineer. But I just wanted to say, you see all these questions coming in now. It's beautiful, you guys. Thank you so much for that. I would love for you to message me on my Facebook page the question so that I can review these instead of them going by at 62 miles an hour while I am doing Tech Talk Tuesday live. But I also am, this number right here, this is an incredible number that you guys have helped come true. And I wanted to thank you all. Thank you so much for allowing me to come in and take your 30 minutes or your time or however long you can look at it on Tech Talk Tuesday. And look, come back next Tuesday and I will ask some more questions. I will answer some questions based on what I know on number 158. May God bless y'all. Y'all have a great week, and let August be great. And listen, we got to take care of each other, so be kind. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. Give it a shot. I love y'all, man. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.